Okay. Hello, everybody. It is 6:01 a.m. on August 20th, 2020. Time for the normal Thursday Ask Me Anything. A little bit earlier than normal this morning. I have to admit a quick side note. My my 8-year-old. I'm a stepdad to two amazing young boys. My 8-year-old, a bit of a lunatic, certainly braver than I was at 8 years old, requested last night that we've got some woods behind our house. We butt up to like basically a couple hundred acres of just no civilization, just woods. At 8 years old, he informed me that he wanted to sleep in the woods by himself in a tent last night. Not with his older brother, not with whatever, just alone in the woods at 8 years old. Which there's no way I would have done that at 8. There's no way I would have even contemplated it. I know a lot of adults that wouldn't be comfortable sleeping in the woods by themselves and hearing all the sounds and the rustling and whatnot. So he's still out there. He made it all night long. Unbelievable. So I'm looking forward to once this is over. I'm going to make my way out into the woods and get him some breakfast. So crazy little man. All right, that was just a side note. We all got stuff going on. Real life happens, right? Real life. Let's see, Amanda says, I have an 8-year-old and he would never. Exactly, he would never. I mean, his 10-year-old brother was like, nope, you're on your own. You want to do that. There's no way I'm going out into those woods. Those woods are scary. Which is, I feel like, a very normal child response. So, anyway, let's dive right in. The first question isn't a question. But it got the most upvotes, and it's very kind, very gracious. Thank you very much. And it's from Eric. Just had some beautiful, beautiful words. Eric said, no question this week. Just a big thank you for everything you do for the Linchpin community. I thought I was paying for CrossFit programming and ended up getting world-class fitness education and access to a fantastic, supportive community that has the same struggles and interests as I do. Couldn't ask for more. 36 upvotes. Super cool. Thank you so much, Eric. Thanks everybody else for upvoting that. It means the world. It's funny. I don't want to get sidetracked. I always get sidetracked. But everyone thinks, I shouldn't say everyone. I think a lot of people think I'm lying about how amazing our Facebook group is here at Linchpin and how supportive and incredible it is. And I mention it usually on Mondays during the workout description for anyone that's new to the private track. I try to convince them to get onto the private Facebook group because it really is an amazing support group. And I got a cool testimonial. Let me call it up here. A gentleman named Steve says, hey Pat, just watched your video for Monday's workout, new to the private track, and what you said about Facebook is spot on for me. I quit Facebook years ago and literally made a new account just to join the Linchpin Athletics private group a month or so ago, and it's literally the only thing on my profile. And although I was always keeping up the schedule before, now I feel extra motivated each day seeing what others are doing and listening to the AMAs, the Ask Me Anythings. The Facebook group is really a great tool. So there, we're not lying. It is pretty spectacular and helps keep you on track. Okay, so Eric, thank you for the kind words. And the next question or topic that got the most upvotes was from Brian England, 23 upvotes. Says, with so many weightlifting protocols, how do you pick the rep scheme for heavy days? Thanks. Okay. It's not flashy. It's like everything else we do here at Linchpin. It's not flashy. It's methodical, planned out, evidence-based, and just takes a while to do properly, quite frankly. So when I'm scheduling out what are going to be the upcoming heavy days, and they could be classic heavy days or heavy days at a high heart rate. And when he's saying 5x5, etc., so tend to think he's talking about more the classic heavy days, I'll lay out just a fresh sheet of paper, get my pencil out, and I'll start working backwards for what lifts have we done on classic heavy days? What date did those fall on? What were the rep schemes that were associated with that? And I will keep going back in reverse chronological order for multiple months. I'll do one or two huge sheets of paper, and then I'll have all that laid out in front of me, and I'll start connecting dots as to where we've been, where we haven't been, when's the last time this rep scheme came up, or maybe something similar came up, but it was on a heavy day at a high heart rate, and it hasn't made an appearance in a classic heavy day in a while, and just sift through all of that data looking backwards, and then looking backwards gives me the ability to look forward and see where we're going. And then there's a never-ending array of protocols, I guess, for lack of a better word, from 7x1, 5x5, sets of 3, 3-3, 2-2, 1-1-1. Are you going to do tempo work? Are you going to do something off of a box? Are you going to, you fill in the blank. There's a dizzying number of different protocols. And what you also need to do, in my opinion, is from personal experience in educating myself and speaking with athletes, conversations with people that I know and trust in the space of fitness as to what works, what doesn't work, and then separating the noise from what's actually substantial. There's a lot of, I shouldn't say there's a lot, but there are certainly things that I see people doing on Instagram or whatever, and they look great on Instagram because they're different, they're novel. And I think it's really easy to fall in with something novel and be like, well, I'm not doing those things where I wrap myself in these bands and put one leg on a box and this arm's kicked out over here. And let me look, that looks, I haven't done that. That must be effective because it's different. It's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of things that fall into the category of novel, but they actually ring hollow. And then there are some things that are just, classic linchpin stuff, right? Tried and true and effective, and potentially not flashy, but effective. And those things that are effective from personal experience, from now experience with the thousands and thousands of athletes that we have following along with Linchpin and sharing their stories of improving, you just develop a base of knowledge of actually knowing what works and what doesn't work. And so we tend to embrace, the rep schemes that you see pop up regularly, they do pop up for a reason, because they are actually tested and data proven to drive results forward. And that's it. And that's not to say that there's, always something to explore and look into, and we always will, but the things that work we tend to embrace, and those are the things that you seem to pop up with regularity. Okay, next question was from Cameron Talley. I got 20 upvotes when I checked it earlier. Cameron, where are you? Here you go. Now it's got 21. What would you consider a bad WOD, a bad workout? You finish it, and for some reason you just decide to never repeat it. Stimulus was tricky to achieve, or it didn't flow well together. Any examples? This could be a rabbit hole. But, a bad WOD is very subjective, right? We'd have to almost define bad right off the bat. And there's a fine line between variance and bad programming. Okay, so I don't want to say that there's not bad WODs out there. It's just maybe the WOD that you created didn't achieve what was needed on that day, or didn't take into account what was done the previous 1, 2, or 3 days, and therefore putting that particular workout on the day that you put it on made it less than ideal, made it ineffective. But maybe that WOD wouldn't have been a bad WOD had it been placed on a different day in the cycle. So I think that needs to get said right off the bat. And now I'm going to go ahead and completely contradict what I said. Because while I said, hey, not really, it's tough to say there's bad workouts, maybe it just didn't fit on that day. You can certainly make a bad workout. I mean, some workouts would be dumb, let's just be honest. I mean, if somebody said, hey, let's do a workout, we're going to do 3 rounds for time of a 1-mile run and 1 deadlift at 95 pounds. I mean, I know that's an extreme example, but that would be a workout that if somebody told me that we should do that, I would, as politely as possible, try to let them know that I had no interest in doing that workout. It was a poorly created workout, and you should go back to the drawing board on that. There's just, why even do, over the course of 3 miles of running, 3 deadlifts at 95 pounds? It's just irrelevant. So you could create, I guess, quite frankly, a bad workout, so to speak. But I think more often than not, it's workouts that don't fit well on the day that they were placed. Or you could just do something wildly inappropriate with the loading, wildly inappropriate with the rep scheme. But a lot of that does happen with, before you're a great programmer, you're an okay programmer. And before you're an okay programmer, you're kind of a poor programmer, right? Beginner, intermediate, advanced, there's just no way of shortcutting that. So you probably are going to create some rougher workouts, so to speak, earlier in your career compared to later, because something may look good on paper, doesn't shake out that way, and you just don't have the experience and reps and depth of knowledge and community yet to kind of see it coming. And some of those lessons are learned in blood, sweat, and tears out in the garage. And ideally you learn those with yourself and your group of close friends before you put other people through them. And for example, again, there's a fine line between variance and bad programming. The classic hero workout JT, 21-15, 9 reps per time, handstand push-ups, ring dips, and push-ups. Intentional interference through the roof, pressing. Just tons of fatigue. Every movement makes the other one harder. Well, is that a good workout or a bad workout? It depends. If the day before was a whole bunch of sets of shoulder presses, or Diane, then JT would be a poor choice the next day. Now, but it doesn't mean it's a bad workout. If you created JT and for some reason just didn't realize that all the movements would interfere with the other, and you thought you were creating this high-intensity, fast workout with a low level of interference, well, then you created a bad workout based upon what you hoped that it would be. But JT, if you're looking to create a very challenging workout full of continual pressing in various directions and a high level of interference, then JT is a great workout. So good or bad is an interesting discussion that we could dive down for a while. So, but hopefully that kind of paints a little bit of the picture there. Next one was from Chris. Ooh, barbell complexes. Here we go. Chris, barbell complexes don't seem to get programmed very often. What's your thoughts on them? They're nice. Barbell complexes are nice. I'm not all goo-goo and gaga on them like I think that some folks, and I'm not saying you do, Chris, but some folks do think the world revolves around a good barbell complex, and I do not. They have a purpose, and I would say that they're fun, and when done well, they're effective. They're not necessary. Oh, no, that could be quote sniped from somebody and put somewhere. Meaning you could live your whole life on the earth, not do a barbell complex, and be wonderfully fit, because you're doing everything else that we do every day, from Fran to Diane to Grace to Helen to you name it. So, barbell complexes can get thrown around as a term. Barbell cycling can get thrown around as a term. The most classic barbell complex that's probably done is the bear complex. And so the bear complex, some people don't agree on precisely how to do it, so there might be a slight variation. But in general, you're going to go ahead and you get a weight on the bar, and you're going to hit yourself do a power clean. Once you get the barbell in the front rack position, you're going to go ahead and do a front squat. Once you stand up from the front squat, you go ahead and push press the weight up overhead, lower the weight back down to the back rack position as if you're going to do a back squat. You do a back squat, you stand back up, you push the weight back over your head, back down to the front rack, you're on the ground, you're good to go. I don't have a lot of issue with that, quite frankly, except for one part. I'm just staunchly against lowering weight onto the back of your neck. I really am. I just don't think the reward is worth the potential risk. And I'm just not a fan of while under fatigue. And obviously you should be using a weight that's appropriate. And obviously you should be maintaining good form. But you're still working out. You're going to get fatigued. You're going to be huffing puffing. As it goes on, you're going to be getting more tired. I'm just not a fan of lowering weight anywhere near your cervical spine with what might not be the amount of care that I would like to see happen. So for just in general, I'm not going to recommend that kind of a stuff. I'm just not a fan. And in general, those barbell complexes, they want you to do them unbroken to hold onto the bar the whole time, which, again, it can be done beautifully and wonderfully. But anytime you're loading something up and you're telling people to make good decisions and it has to be unbroken, there's just a human nature to try to go a bit heavier to hold onto that bar, and now you're cycling through something which maybe you shouldn't have gone that heavy, or maybe you should have broken it up, or maybe you should have dropped the bar and shaken it out a little bit. But you don't want to say that you didn't do that round of the complex as prescribed, and so you hold on to it, and then you jerk that weight overhead and quite tired, lower it onto your cervical spine, upper back. I don't like it. There's a lot of stuff it is what it is, but I think there's better ways to do business, I guess is probably the best way that I can say it. And just because something's popular doesn't mean that there's not a better way to roll. And so, I would rather see, you want to just move a barbell around repeatedly over and over again. Just don't break up your sets during grace. There's power clean to overhead, power clean to overhead. Hold on to the bar during Isabel. Be the best barbell hero that you can possibly be when DT rolls around, etc., etc. Cycle through thrusters on Fran, so on and so forth. When squat clean Elizabeth comes up, keep that beautiful barbell in your hand and just touch and go a tremendous amount of squat cleans. I mean, yes, with the barbell, that's slightly different than what we're talking about with the barbell complex, but with something like the bear complex, but you in no way, shape, or form are going to be shortchanged with your ability to move a barbell if you decide to just hold on to that sucker during DT, Elizabeth, Grace, etc., etc., etc. So, and all those can be done without some arbitrary demand that something has to be unbroken, and therefore the athlete can just, I hope, make a better decision of not feeling some bizarre pressure that you gotta hold on to it or that set didn't count. Drop the darn barbell if you want to drop the barbell. Shake it out. When you feel good, grab it, go again for another 3, 4, 5 reps. You're going to be great. You're going to get fit. You're going to stay healthy. You're going to have fun. And life is going to be absolutely tremendous. So again, I thought I heard maybe my son coming in. So, barbell complexes, nice, wonderful. They have their place if you do them with regularity, especially something like one that lowers the weight onto the back of your neck. I just encourage you with all of my heart to be really super cautious when you do that. And if you ask me to join you for that workout, I will politely decline. That's probably that. So, and then I almost went down another rabbit hole. Getting back to the theoretical hierarchy of the development of an athlete, which has, nutrition, metabolic conditioning, gymnastics, and then at the top, weightlifting, sport being at the top, but weightlifting being further down the road than gymnastics or metabolic conditioning. And if we are trying to build the athlete the way that we should build them, complexes such as this should probably be happening more regularly with metabolic conditioning and gymnastics. But again, if we're going for the Instagram flash, you got to get that barbell out there. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, Chris. I'm not saying that, but it's an interesting topic. So we achieve everything that we need to achieve, ideally with putting the athlete in a position to remain as healthy as possible and make the best decisions possible, I would say is my answer for that one. Let's see. All right, moving on. Rob Knight, if I wrote, my handwriting is atrocious. Rob has a question. Oh, it was about Office Space, not the movie, but my actual office. Rob, can we have a look around at how you have 18 upvotes, by the way. How you have your office space set up. Any useful tips, tricks, layouts, gadgets you find helpful with productivity, motivation, or general well-being. Things that are a must-have within the space and things that would be detrimental to getting work done. I'm looking to reorganize my own area of work and notice that you use a standing desk. So I've got my phone attached to a stand that has a light behind it so I can do videos like this. So I won't be able to just kind of have it go everywhere. But I can tell you, got the standing desk. I've had the standing desk for maybe 2 years, and it took some getting used to, for sure. But now I very much enjoy it, and I don't even have a chair in here. So I'm in my office 8 hours a day, and I'm standing here 8 hours a day. And initially it was challenging, and now it's not challenging at all. So, and I don't know if I can tell you that I've got any health benefits from it, but sitting down at my desk now feels odd. I don't know what that means, but I do enjoy the standing desk. And then me personally, the lighting is a big deal, especially because I do a lot of filming in here, so I want to make sure that my lighting is unique for that. If you're not doing filming, that could be, irrelevant to your cause. I've got my, just to the side here, I've got my laptop, and then of course I have an external monitor as well, which for working from home, I think having 2 screens, and the external monitor being significantly larger than the laptop screen is an absolute must. I mean, I would put that so high in the list, it'd be ridiculous. Game changer. And then, strong Wi-Fi, and then having, since I work from home, a really good, kind of all-in-one printer, copier, scanner deal that works well and allows me to do whatever I need to do from home and relatively easy. And I like a lot of desk space, so I have a decent size desk just so I can lay out all my junk or my paperwork for my mad scientist stuff when I'm getting all the programming organized and all that. So that's basically how I have it set up. Maybe one time when I don't have the phone attached here to this stand, I can give you a little tour. But and then I got some shelving on the side, so I keep books and various sundries, if you will. And that's about it. But it's pretty straightforward. Ooh, here we go. Okay. Steve K. How and when to start coaching in CrossFit? Steve, if somebody wanted to start coaching in CrossFit and the timing is right, is it important or necessary to be able to do the muscle-ups, kipping pull-ups, or be able to do handstand push-ups, double unders, etc. when they start coaching other folks? Or can they start but know that they are working on all the movements and will eventually be able to do them? I know that it is important to be able to do the movements to coach them, but at what point does a person have to start, knowing that there will always be someone better than them at CrossFit? Great question. The last sentence I wouldn't worry about, knowing that there will always be somebody better at them than CrossFit. To be a fantastic coach, you don't need a sub-3 Fran. You don't need a 500-pound deadlift. You don't need whatever it happens to be. I mean, ideally, you're walking the walk and talking the talk. Don't get me wrong, that your life revolves around fitness and education and helping people, and it is a lifestyle for yourself as well that you are immersed in, and you're not just, flapping your gums to somebody about something that you really don't live and breathe. So that has to be said. And here's the ideal situation. The ideal situation is that you have the technical knowledge of techniques, forms, progressions, how the body works, etc., etc., quote-unquote book smart, right? You've got the technical knowledge. Then that technical knowledge would also be coupled with, this is again the ideal world, physical performance, okay? I'm not saying you don't need to have a set of, 30 unbroken ring muscle-ups, but in an ideal world, you could do some muscle-ups, right? So you can speak about them, you can actually show them as well. Or the technical knowledge means you know about them. It doesn't mean that you can speak about them. So you've got the technical knowledge, ideally the physical capacity, And then the other part would also be the human element, that you are a good communicator, that you care, that you have empathy, that you have multiple tools in your toolbox as to how to articulate things. If explanation number 1 doesn't work for that person, does explanation 2, does explanation 3? If verbal doesn't work, does tactile? If tactile doesn't work, you demonstrating it might, etc., etc. You've got multiple ways to attack this because you're a well-rounded coach, and you're going to find the approach that works for that athlete, because what works for athlete A might not work for athlete B, etc., etc. Well, that's the ideal situation, okay? Most people aren't the ideal, at least, or certainly not when they start. And if all of us waited until we were the ideal, we probably wouldn't have any coaches in the world, because how do you become great without for a while being middle of the road? And how do you achieve middle of the road without being less than that for a while? So again, there's a learning curve involved in everything, and you have to get out there and start. You have to get out there and learn. So get the credentials that you need. Attend your level 1 seminar. Go to a level 2. I mean, the knowledge there is fantastic. And then, like they say at the end of the level 1, if you want to be a coach, you got to get out there and start coaching. And allow yourself to do that in a low stakes environment. There's a key, right? And so one of the easiest things that they'll say at the level 1 is, you want to be a coach? Get your credentials, go out, grab a PVC pipe or a broom handle, and teach your next door neighbor, the Bergner warm-up, and how to snatch, or how to front squat, or how to deadlift, or whatnot, with a broom handle. And so now you're going to take your next door neighbor, you're going to teach them how to deadlift with absolutely zero weight, with zero intensity. You're just learning the movement patterns with a broom handle, with somebody who isn't used to being coached, so they're going to be probably not receptive or a tougher candidate because they don't know hip flexion, extension, what's going on, what does the word midline mean, etc., etc. So you're going to have to work your butt off to teach that untrained individual how to deadlift properly with just a broom handle. And you're going to become better at coaching just through that experience. So you can spend a ton of time with just your friends and family, the people that will give you a wide strike zone for mistakes, but the mistakes are going to be very low cost because it's just a broom handle with no intensity, with no loading. And what you're doing is you're just honing your craft, and that'll give you the opportunity to crawl, walk, run, get your confidence under you, see a whole bunch of different people, get your cues, figure things out, and then little by little, as you're growing as a coach, those quote-unquote athletes or friends of yours or neighbors are growing in their capacity and their knowledge, and after they've got, again, we keep saying the same things, right? Mechanics, consistency, and then intensity. You're spending a lot of time teaching the mechanics of the deadlift or the air squat or whatever. You're actually learning your mechanics as to how to be a coach. Both of you are improving those with consistency, honing them and honing them and honing them. And then at the very end of that path is a little bit of intensity. You put on a little bit of loading. You make a little routine out of an air squat and something else. And then you're on your road to becoming a coach. And you're always learning. That learning never stops. Both the hands-on, the dealing with people, getting outside your scope of influence and friends, to expanding your knowledge to other schools of thought, and becoming best of a walking encyclopedia as you can. But again, with that real-world human interaction makes the good coach. I have put thousands and thousands of people through level 1, level 2 seminars. And I've had everyone in the world in the audience, from brand new coach that has never done anything but wants to be a coach, to somebody who's been in the fitness industry 20 years and has every credential that you could ever think of. All the letters after their name looks like the alphabet spilled out onto the page, because they've got this from this and blah, blah, blah. I wish I could tell you that every single time that it was the academics that were the best coaches, right? That the more credentials you had, the more certifications and courses you went, that meant that you were a better coach. That is not what 200 level 1 seminars and traveling all around the world and putting 10,000 people through those seminars has taught me. I have seen so many people with advanced degrees in this or that that could not coach. Period, end of story. And we're just babbling nonsense out of a book that didn't help anybody. I have seen other individuals that didn't have that level of education by a long shot, self-educated from the internet, from the CrossFit Journal, and they were exceptional. Now, that's not always the case. I've also seen people that were highly skilled in academia that were fantastic coaches. They're absolutely out there. So this is not an ultimatum or an end-all be-all statement. And obviously, most of the time, new individuals that want to be coaches that don't have experience yet, they're not great coaches. That's how it works most of the time. But my point is, don't think that just because somebody has this amazing resume that they're an incredible coach. It does not work that way. And the opposite's not always true. So everyone is walking their own path, but regardless, you've got to build your foundational knowledge, know what you're talking about, try to live it, breathe it, have it be a part of your life. Then you've got to go out and you've got to get yourself real world experience in a low stakes environment, and then continue to hone your craft. And drop the ego. Like everything else we say, remove ego. Ego is such a detriment. There are some coaches who are good, who could be great, but they're not as great as they could be because they hit a certain point and think that they know everything. And they've shut their mind off to learning. That's a terrible place to be. That's when you begin to die as a coach. So don't ever think that you know it all. Don't ever think that you can't learn from somebody else. Even if you've been in the fitness industry 15 years and you're talking to somebody who's been in the fitness industry 3 years, if you're the person with the 15 years of experience, you should feel like you can learn from that person who's only been in there 3 years. Because they've lived a bit of a different life. You'll be able to glean something from them. So always be open and always be receptive to that, and it will pay off. So, yeah, I think that's it. The sun's starting to come up here on the West Coast in Washington, and I'm going to go wander into the woods and see how my son did after his night solo camping. So as always, Linchpin, thank you all for being tremendous. It is my absolute honor and privilege to serve this community. Enjoy your rest day, and we'll talk soon.